Why on earth I thought it was a good idea to have the 4th ever Death by Bunjie meet and greet in January in 10-degree weather.
Well, Rich, you can't take all the blame. I had some input on those dates also. Old Grumpy Hunter here. Welcome to Bungie's Bison Arrow, where I'm going to dissect a few things.
To quote friend of Bungie, Justin, that arrow traveled at the speed of smell.
The speed of smell? How fast is that? Well, it appears to be around 200 feet per second.
Really no reason whatsoever to be building custom arrows like this. But man, over 30% front of center.
That arrow that Rich made weighed in at 1,084 grains, and out of Bungie it had an initial speed about 200 feet per second. At launch, it had about 96.26 foot-pounds of kinetic energy, and its momentum was around 0.962 slugs. That's almost a full slug.
Man, what a shot. Look at the drop in that arrow. Look at the arc, right?
Let's talk about that drop, or should I say the climb and drop. This table shows the calculated climb and drop from launch to impact. Of course, the arc is exaggerated because of the lack of space. What the takeaway here from this table is elevation at the apex of the flight was between 21 and 22 yards at about 20.41 inches. Both the climb and the drop were somewhat linear, but the drop was faster. Looking at this table, you see the climb and drop for each yard. Between launch and the first 5 yards, the arrow climb had the greatest rate of climb at 8.362 inches. And during those first 5 yards, the speed drop was only 0.6 feet per second. Between 15 and 20 yards, the climb was 1.788 inches, or 0.3576 inches per yard, where the climb for the last 2 yards was only 0.095 inches. That works out to 0.0475 inches per yard. You can see the last 5 yards, the drop was faster than the first 5 yards of climb. The average climb for the first 5 yards was 1.6724 inches per yard, where the drop in the last 5 yards averages 1.8064 inches per yard. This table shows the rise and fall like the previous table, but also shows the total rise and fall. You see the rise in the last 2 yards of climb is 0.095 inches, and then the drop in the following 2 yards was 0.263 inches. Those first 2 yards of drop was almost 3 times faster than the last 2 yards of climb. During the 44 yards of flight, Bungie's arrow dropped only 4.5 feet per second. That's a speed drop of only 2.25%. The lack of speed drop is a result of 1,084 grains. Heavier arrows retain speed better than light arrows. The speed drop was not linear. In this table, the speed is represented by the blue line, and the yellow line represents what a linear drop would look like. Looking at this table, we see how speed compares to flight time. As stated before, speed dropped 4.5 feet per second in the 40 yards. That happened in only 0.668 seconds. The speed drop, again, as I said, was not linear, and the average speed was 197.5 feet per second. Because the speed was basically constant through the 44-yard flight, both the kinetic energy and the momentum were also very constant. This table represents the kinetic energy per yard. The blue line shows the kinetic energy, where the red line shows the linear effect of the kinetic energy. The kinetic energy dropped just over 4 foot-pounds in the 44 yards. In this table, we see momentum per yard. The blue line represents the momentum in slugs, and the red line represents what the linear momentum would be. The momentum dropped 0.022 slugs. The reason the arrow retained most of its momentum is because of the speed retention. You recall the formula for momentum is P equals Vm. Let's look at the percentage of loss for this arrow. Looking at speed, we started out at 200 feet per second. At impact was 195.5 feet per second, which was a decrease of 4.5 feet per second, or an overall change of 2.25%. The kinetic energy started out at 96.3. It had a decrease of 4.7 foot-pounds, or a 4.88% change. Momentum started out at almost a full slug at 0.962. At impact, it was at 0.94, or a decrease of 0.022, or a 2.29% decrease. Let's compare the numbers of a custom arrow with the numbers of the stock arrow shot from Bunjie. The stock arrow is about 32% the weight of the custom arrow, and the difference in all the percentages of decrease between the stock arrow and the custom arrow is between 35 and 39%. As you can see, the custom arrow, as I said before, retains a greater percentage of its speed. Let's take another look at the shot and listen for the impact. The second thunk is when the arrow hit bone. Because of the high momentum, Bunjie's custom arrow was able to go through the leg bone and into the heart. But because of the weight of the arrow and hitting the bone, the broadhead bent on impact and the blades did not open.
Thank you for watching this Old Grumpy Hunter production. Please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you have not already done so. And don't forget to click the notification bell. Share this video with your friends. It helps the channel and Old Grumpy Hunter reach more people.